Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. So yesterday I told you, maybe I told you, I don't remember if I told you, that my kids asked to play D&D again. They want to give it a shot. Last time I bought the starter kit and tried to run that adventure and they were bored to death. They didn't like it. They didn't have fun. So this time we're going to roll our own and I'm going to go back to my favorite style of DMing, which is just off the cuff. Like, let's just go for it. Let's make a story together that's fun and engaging. That's how I DM'd for years and years and years, and that's what I'm used to. What I would do is I always kept my notebook, and I don't know if we ever talked about, in the past I did a lot of handouts. I really enjoyed being immersive. I enjoyed making maps. I enjoyed making props to hand to players, and I enjoyed giving items that they could hold on to between sessions and use or whatever. So I would, generally we would have a session 0, as we called it, and I'm sure people still call it that, where we roll characters and we develop backstory. And what, as a DM, I would want to know is, how did your characters meet? Why are they together? Do they share a common goal of some kind? And that helps me craft the story. And so as the sessions go, if I introduce a new character, I would scribble down whatever name I came up with. I generally kept a sheet of just random names so that I could just throw people in there and I don't have to sit and think about it. I'll probably do that again. Random place names, random town names. I would just make it up as we went. And I would take notes as to who they saw, what they saw, anything they thought was interesting. And generally, I would rely on them to give me a summary at the end of the session. So at the end of every session, it'd be like, so what we do, where we go, who we meet, what's important. So I could get a general idea of what they are thinking they want to do next. And then I could spend the next, break between sessions planning out a little bit of the next session. That's when I would make props and stuff, because I'd come up with some sort of plot hook, make a prop for it, get that ready for them. But the session would still be largely just off the cuff. And so I'm really excited about that, because I think that DMing is a certain type of storytelling. It's very, very different from writing, which is what I would like to do more of. But I think that if nothing else, the creative energy I've put into thinking just this little bit about their request, right, to play D&D again, the little bit of effort I've put into thinking about that has already spurned a pretty... So all of this is to say, I think I have a very high-level rough draft of my next book. I've been thinking about this book idea since early March, before going on the cruise. In fact, I told you before going on the cruise that I was working on writing a story a week, and I wrote I think 5 stories. I think 5 weeks I pulled that off. I wrote a story, trashed them all, but I got this idea, and it stuck in my head, and I couldn't figure out how to do the idea justice as a short story. And so I thought maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger, like a small book, or a novelette, or whatever, a novella. And I'm more interested in the quirkiness of it than having some sort of life-altering, world-changing happening, the chosen one, and all that sort of stuff. So this idea has been ruminating in my head all this time. 5 months it's been sitting there, just spinning. And I keep putting off writing it down because, as I've told you before, when I write stuff down, I tend to forget it. But the last time I attempted to write a book, I attempted to do it just off the cuff, like I would DM, and it ended up being a complete disaster, because as I was writing chapters, I was completely erasing everything that I wrote before it. It means that the draft that I have of that book is unusable, and I don't even think I could salvage sentences from it. I would just need to rewrite it from scratch. That's okay, but what I've learned is that I can do that. That should be my pre-writing. I shouldn't have written 50-some thousand words only to keep 1,000 of them, right? I should write a few, maybe 1,000 words, and then keep all of that and make those my whatever. So my plan is, so I have this draft. I finished it yesterday. I got inspired. I sat out on the porch and I just wrote out this draft. And I have a main character. He has a want and a need, and he can't have that because there's a situation that happens and he has to go do something about that situation. And I have 3 sets of hurdles for him to jump through, and I have a final. I know how the book ends, and I know where he ends up, and all that sort of stuff. I have an actual like a broad overview, and so I'm really excited about it because I'm going to start writing on it soonish. Not quite yet. What I did was I wrote 6 pages, maybe 8 pages of notes about each of those things that I just mentioned. The start of the book, why he can't stay where he is, the people that he meets along the way, each of the things that he has to overcome to get to the ending, what happens when he gets to the ending, who he becomes, what has changed, all that sort of stuff, his arc. I have all that. Now what I would like to do, I over these past 5 months, I have scenes in my head that I kept thinking about, and I want to figure out where those fit in there and mold them. So I'm just going to take notes on scenes for a while. Once I have scenes kind of sketched, not necessarily all of them, but just once I have some thoughts ruminating so that I know that, how many times am I going to say ruminating in this video? Thoughts that allow me to tie pieces together, because keeping that little string alive, that little thread is what makes a book interesting. Then I will start laying it out chapter by chapter. And I think what I'm going to do is say, all right, chapter 1, I want to accomplish this. Chapter 2, I want to accomplish this. And I will have like a couple of sentences with a page break in between, and when I sit to write, I will just start with those couple sentences and just write a chapter. That's the goal. I think it's going to work. I don't know. I'm probably still a few weeks away from actually sitting down to do the writing, but we're really close. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. We have a question for Chris today. So today's question with Chris, let's just get it on.
Hey, friend. How are you? So I'm recording this tonight for tomorrow's question of the day. Been watching a lot of James Bond on the streaming service since it's free now. And I've seen Q and Moneypenny and M. And I think about your M. We've seen her hand. She's mentioned a lot. Are we going to ever see her? Or is she going to stay in the shadows forever? And then part 2 of the question is, why is your M a better spy than James Bond is? A spy, nobody should know who you are. You watch James Bond, everybody knows him. He drops his name. They know who he works for. He's not a very damn good spy. But I think your M would be a good spy. Until next time.
I could do a whole episode on M, and I'm not going to. M likes to be in the shadows. She does not want to be front and center. She likes her privacy. She's very private that way. I have told you before that M is not her real name. M is just what I have chose to call her in online interactions to help with her anonymity. That being said, you could figure out who M is if you wanted to. There are ways to go find her and see her. We have not completely shut ourselves, our partnership out of social media. There are ways to find her. I'm never going to expose those ways, and that's up to you, like, if you're that curious. As far as her anonymity goes, M is very young. I think we've talked about that. She is 17 years younger than me, and despite that, she is also very much not dependent on social media like her peers. She doesn't really use it much. She doesn't promote it much. She doesn't spend time on it. That's just not, though she's a software developer, she's not interested in that. Additionally, why is she a better spy? M has a top secret clearance. Her job requires it. So she doesn't talk about her job. She doesn't talk about what she does, because she is not a spy, but she is, a member of an elite group that requires secrecy. So we just, she's never going to be on the show unless, I can't say that. I don't think she's ever going to be in front of the camera. Like, she might decide that maybe, wedding pictures or something, that we do a video or something like that. But I'm never going to tell you, I'm never going to come here and say, here's M and here's her real name and date of birth and address and all that sort of stuff, right? She's private that way. So we'll just keep it that way. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should notice sounds smart is morose. It is an adjective meaning gloomy and ill-humored. Now that his parents have taken away his private plane, Anthony has become positively morose. Morose, M-O-R-O-S-E. A private... Man, his parents took away his plane. Not cool, Dad.